You don't realize it yet, but the way you speak is either opening doors for you or quietly closing them every single day. There are people who walk into a room and don't say much, yet everyone listens when they finally speak. And there are people who talk and talk, but somehow nobody truly hears them. Here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about your education. It's not even about how loud you speak. It's communication. Because in life, the people who win are not always the most talented. They are the ones who can express their thoughts clearly, connect emotionally, and make others feel understood. And if you learn this one skill properly, your entire life begins to shift. Jobs become easier to get. Relationships become easier to build. Respect becomes easier to earn. Opportunities start coming toward you instead of you chasing them. Most people were never taught this. They were taught what to say, not how to make people feel it. So let's fix that right now. It starts with something most people completely ignore: silence. Not awkward silence, but powerful silence. When you stop rushing to fill every gap in conversation, people lean in. They become curious. Because confidence is not in how much you speak, it's in how comfortable you are when you don't. Most people destroy their own presence by over-explaining and trying too hard to be liked. But people don't trust words that feel desperate. They trust presence that feels grounded. Think about the last time someone really impressed you in a conversation. It probably wasn't because they used big words. It was because they made you feel understood.
That's the real secret. Communication is not about impressing, it's about connecting. And connection always starts with listening. Not the kind where you just wait for your turn to speak, but real listening, where you forget yourself for a moment and step into their world completely. You notice their tone, you notice what they're not saying, and suddenly people begin to open up to you without even realizing why. Because most people are never truly heard. So when someone finally listens with full attention, it feels rare. And rare things create value. Words are only about 30% of communication. The rest is tone, timing, and energy. The way you start a conversation determines everything. Most people start with empty phrases like, "How are you?" without meaning it. Strong communicators notice something real, something specific. Instead of, "How was your day?" try, "You look like you've had a long day. Everything okay?" Same idea, completely different impact. One feels mechanical, the other feels human. And in communication, human always wins. Here's another truth most people miss. You don't need to be interesting. You need to be interested. When you are genuinely interested in someone, they automatically find you interesting. People reflect back the energy you give them. If you're distracted, they become distant. If you're present, they become open. So if people don't engage with you deeply, don't blame your personality first. Look at your attention. Presence is louder than words.
One of the most powerful communication skills in the world is making people feel important without exaggerating. Not through fake compliments, but through attention. Remembering small details someone said earlier, acknowledging their thoughts instead of rushing past them. These small actions make people feel valued. And when people feel valued around you, they start associating that feeling with you. That's how trust is built, not in big moments, but in small, consistent ones. Confidence in communication isn't about perfect English or sounding intelligent. It's about being clear. Short sentences, simple words, strong meaning. Clarity creates authority. Confusion destroys it. The most respected communicators are the ones who make complex ideas feel simple. And that's a skill anyone can learn. Now, imagine this. You walk into a room, you don't try to impress anyone. You don't rush your words. You listen more than you speak. And when you speak, people actually pause and listen. Not because you're louder, but because you're clearer, calmer, and more present. That version of you already exists. It's just buried under overthinking and fear of judgment. Here's something deeper. Communication is emotional engineering. You are shaping how someone feels without them even realizing it. People don't judge you based on one sentence. They judge you based on how they feel after talking to you. That emotional residue defines your presence. The way you speak can create resistance or remove it. Most people unknowingly create resistance. They argue too quickly, they correct too fast, they try to prove instead of understand. The moment someone feels corrected, they close emotionally, even if they smile on the outside. Skilled communicators slow things down. They let people feel safe. They don't rush to be right because connection is more valuable than winning a moment. Someone who always tries to win every argument may sound intelligent at first, but over time, people start avoiding deeper conversations with them. Nobody likes feeling small in a conversation. Safety is the foundation of influence because people are not influenced when they feel pressured. They're influenced when they feel understood. You don't need perfect responses, you need better reactions. A pause, a breath, a moment of thinking, these small gaps make you appear thoughtful and in control. Control in communication doesn't mean dominating others, it means controlling your own emotional urgency. Because urgency destroys clarity, and clarity builds trust. If you want people to remember you, wrap ideas in a story. The human brain isn't designed to remember facts easily. It remembers experiences. Instead of saying confidence is important, show a moment where you had to speak up even when you were nervous. When people feel something, they remember it. Great communicators are storytellers. Your tone matters more than your vocabulary. You can say the right words with the wrong tone and it feels wrong. Tone carries emotion, intention, confidence, or doubt. That's why someone can say, "I'm fine," and you immediately know they're not. You didn't hear their words, you felt their tone.
Real confidence is calm certainty. It's the feeling that you're okay, even if you're misunderstood. The ability to speak without needing approval in return. The moment you need approval, you lose freedom in expression, and communication becomes performance instead of presence. Remove that need, and your voice stabilizes. Your energy becomes steady, and people start trusting you more naturally. Stop filling every silence. Silence is not your enemy, it's your tool. When you say something meaningful and allow a pause afterward, it gives weight to your words. Attention is the new currency of communication, and attention isn't held by noise, it's held by relevance, curiosity, and timing. Not everyone will respond to you the way you expect. Some people will misunderstand you, some will be distracted no matter how well you speak. And that's not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of their state. Strong communicators don't collapse internally based on external reactions. Their focus isn't approval, it's clarity and connection. And ironically, that's when people like you more. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally became real. At a higher level, communication becomes influence. Not the loud, forceful kind, but the quiet kind, where people align with your ideas without feeling pushed. Real persuasion feels like agreement, not resistance, like the other person arrived at the idea themselves. Instead of saying, "This is right, that's wrong," strong communicators ask, "What makes you feel that way?" These questions slow the emotional pace of conversation and replace reaction with reflection. Most disagreements aren't actually about truth, they're about perspective. When curiosity enters a conversation, defenses lower and ideas can move.
If you want people to take your words seriously, take theirs seriously first, even if you disagree. You don't have to agree, you just have to show understanding first. That's where most people fail. They listen only to respond, not to understand. Timing is one of the most underrated communication skills. You can say the right thing at the wrong time, and it fails completely. Good communicators sense when someone is open, defensive, or distracted, and adjust accordingly. Not by changing who they are, but by respecting the emotional state of the moment. People are more influenced by what they feel during a conversation than what they hear. Healthy disagreement, handled correctly, actually strengthens communication because it shows honesty. Arguing is emotional. Discussing is thoughtful. Arguing tries to win. Discussing tries to understand. Replace "you're wrong" energy with "help me understand" energy. It removes ego from the center of communication and puts understanding there instead. Presence isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being the most mentally available person in the room. And your intention matters. If your intention is to impress or dominate, people feel it. Genuine intention always outperforms performance. Communication is a combination of awareness, timing, emotional control, listening, clarity, and intention. When these align, you stop struggling in conversations, and conversations start flowing through you. People feel understood around you, and influence happens naturally. Eventually, you stop trying to be understood by everyone and start focusing on being clear with the right people. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Speaking less but meaning more often creates stronger impact than constantly explaining yourself. Silence is Most communication problems aren't language problems. They're emotional reactions delivered through language. When you stay steady inside a conversation, even if the other person isn't, you gain perspective. And perspective lets you respond wisely instead of reacting instantly. If you want people to understand you better, simplify your language. Clarity removes confusion, and confusion is the #1 enemy of communication. People don't remember everything you say, they remember how you made them feel. Trust isn't built in big moments, it's built in small, repeated interactions. How you respond when someone shares something personal, how you listen without interrupting, how you handle disagreement without turning it into conflict. Before speaking, ask yourself one simple question. Is what I'm about to say clear and helpful? This filter removes a lot of unnecessary communication and helps you speak with intention instead of impulse. Influence isn't about controlling what people think. It's about expanding how people think. You don't force ideas, you introduce perspectives. And at the highest level of communication, you stop performing. You stop overanalyzing every reaction. You listen deeply, respond honestly, speak clearly, and trust yourself enough not to over-control every moment. That's when communication becomes natural, not rehearsed, and people can feel real instantly. You don't become a better communicator by talking more. You become one by understanding more. Understanding people, timing, emotion, silence, and yourself inside conversations. Most communication problems are actually interpretation problems. Two people hear the same sentence but interpret it differently based on emotion and past experience. So your job isn't to control how others interpret you, it's to reduce unnecessary misunderstanding by being clearer, calmer, and more intentional. People don't just hear your words, they feel your energy behind them, even through text. If your energy is anxious or rushed, people feel that. If it's calm and grounded, they feel that too and respond accordingly. You are always setting the temperature in a conversation, not through authority, but through emotional regulation. One of the most powerful communication habits is emotional pacing. You don't match chaos with chaos. If someone is speaking fast, you don't automatically speed up. If someone is emotional, you don't escalate. You slow the interaction slightly and bring stability into it, because people unconsciously adjust to the emotional tone you hold. The way you end sentences matters more than most people realize. Uncertain sentences create uncertainty in your presence. Steady sentences build trust faster than anything else. Stop trying to sound right, start trying to land clearly. Sounding right is about ego. Landing clearly is about understanding.
True confidence in communication is not about speaking without fear. It's about speaking without dependency. You're not dependent on approval, agreement, or perfect reactions. You speak because you have something to express, not because you need something back. Communication mastery isn't about learning more things to say. It's about removing what blocks your natural clarity. Fear of judgment, need for approval, overthinking every sentence, rushing to respond, trying to impress instead of connect. When these reduce, your natural communication ability becomes visible, because every person already has the ability to connect. They're just not always present enough to use it fully. Imagine a version of you who is calm in conversations, who listens fully, who responds clearly, who is comfortable with silence, who speaks with intention instead of impulse. That version doesn't need to try hard to be influential. Influence happens naturally because people feel understood around that presence. And at the end of the day, that is what most people are actually looking for. Not perfect speakers, not impressive vocabulary. People who make them feel heard, calm, and understood. That is the real foundation of communication mastery.